Hey, how you doing? Dan here. And I'm here to confess, yes, I broke the rules, all the rules, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Let me tell you about it. There's a lot of good things about working in Antarctica, and one of the many good things is you're 10,000 miles away from the main office, which was in Denver, Colorado. Now, that being said, when I was down there in the 90s, communication wasn't all that good. We got one phone call home a week for 5 minutes. And that included also talking to the bosses at the main office. We got to talk to them maybe once, possibly twice a week, but for a very short period of time. Email was sketchy at best. The satellite came over one time a day, so email was, depending on how big your email message was, would go out once a day, but it wasn't very reliable. A lot of times it went down. So in talking with your bosses, especially back in the 90s, a little different these days, but you would, to be honest with you, if you didn't like what you're saying, you flipped the switch. Oh, satellite went down. Sorry, can't talk to you. But one of the really good things was that it was kind of the Wild West. I mean, safety was something that everybody talked about. You really didn't adhere to it. Unless you got hurt, then you were in trouble for breaking the safety rules. And so what I did with my crew is if they did extra work, I would let them go on expedition with the scientists, and that was really the main reason people wanted to go to Antarctica. It wasn't for the money, because it really wasn't all that great. It was okay, but it was more for just the experience of going to Antarctica. So my crew, and I had a great crew, let me tell you, they could do anything. They would do extra work, and they would get to go out on expedition out there with the scientists. Whoever did a good week's work, they would get an extra day off to go expedition. They would dive tend, or they would go out in the small boats and just help collect samples, or even go out on the glacier hiking. So it was really something that our crew looked forward to, because they knew they were going to actually get to partake in the true Antarctica. Now, one of the things that I always wanted to do, being a certified diver, is I always wanted to dive under the ice. That was one big goal I had, and of course that was a big safety no-no, being under the ice, especially not being a cold water certified diver. However, I did a lot of these things for the scientists, a lot of extra things that we didn't have to do. Now, I'm not going to use any names, because these two science divers are still in the program and they could get in big trouble. But one day they came to me after we had done all this stuff for them. They said, Dan, we need a dive tender today to help us. I said, yeah, sure, I can arrange that. No, they said, Dan, we need you to dive tend for us. I didn't really know what was going on, but sure, yeah, I'll go out there with you. So what they did is they took the snowmobiles and everything, and we went out to an area on the ice where the base couldn't see them directly. We in contact with radio. And so what they did is they cut the hole in the ice, and we were doing all this work getting ready to dive, and they pulled out the extra large dry suit, which then I realized, wow, this is going to be great. So I got to dive under the ice, which was fantastic. Now, of course, the first dive that I did was in shallow water. It was only about 20 feet deep, but it still had solid ice over the top. And boy, let me tell you something. It was beautiful under there. All kinds, there's more sea life than you can imagine down in that water. Now, it's 28-degree water, but it was fantastic. And once they felt comfortable with me diving in there, I made, and I don't know, I shouldn't probably say this, but I made numerous trips out there. In fact, there's an old Chilean, it's a tour ship, military ship combination, but it's sunk in the 80s, just off coast, and it's actually in about 80 feet of water. You can still see it at low tide, but I even got to dive on that, which is an experience I can't even tell you. Now, unfortunately, I never knew that I was going to be diving under the water, so I didn't bring any underwater camera gear, and I didn't get any pictures of that. But let me tell you, it was beautiful, and what an experience. I tell you, you look up there and you see the ice, the sun shining through it, and there's all kinds of sea life down there. I can't even describe it. You've seen pictures of it, National Geographic. That's exactly what it looks like. So, being in the 90s, no communication or very little with the office, safety, we had safety, and they made sure that I knew what I was doing before I went down there. But because it was the 90s and a little bit of the Wild Wild West, I got to dive under the ice, which very, very few people get to do that. And nowadays, in 2000, last time I was down there, 2013, you can forget about it. There is no way, unless you're a scientific diver and you have reason to go under the ice, you ain't going under the ice. So, I confess, that is one of the many rules that I broke down there, especially in the 90s, because it was a lot different. But let me tell you, if I had a chance to do it again, you bet I'm doing it.